All right, let's talk about self-fulfilling prophecies, positive self-fulfilling prophecies. So in this lesson, we really want to talk about reframing those three stories that we found at the beginning. So if you remember, three core beliefs about dating that dictate the results you get: how you feel about yourself, how you feel about men, and how you feel about dating and love in general. Right. I spoke to a few people about how they got on with this exercise, and we all we all resonate with some of the things that happen for most of us. There's stories such as, yeah, I'm not good enough, or love won't happen for me, all men are pigs. Thank you for that. All men are non-committal or lazy. Dating is harder than it's ever been. Dating doesn't work on apps. People who like me or who I like don't like me back. We hear all these stories, right? What are we going to do about that? So remember the two key things here. We treat beliefs like facts when they're not. Okay, they're just beliefs. They're something that we've had evidence for, and left unchecked, they become self-fulfilling prophecies. Right? If you do not do something about this, if you don't know what you are believing and what you're feeding, they just become more of the same. You really entrench yourself and your brain into believing that is truth, and you get evidence of it constantly, which is really important in the dating world. So how do we change? Three things that we need. We need a replacement belief, we need new action, and we want to create new evidence. When you have those three elements, something to go towards instead, something that inspires you to do something differently, and then because of those two things, you get new evidence. That's what allows you to change your belief, because overall, you start to realize what you originally believed isn't 100% true. This other thing can be true. And here's the proof. The proof is what's missing for most people, right? You can say all day long, I want to believe this, this, or this. Doesn't matter until you start taking those steps, right? You need to actually create evidence so you can believe it deep inside, right? You know it is true. You're not just telling yourself it's true. Okay. One of my favorite methods for doing this, very simple, is something called the Socratic method. And some of you may have heard this simple 4-step process. So the first thing we want to do is identify in any one moment, what's the story I'm currently telling myself? You already did that last week. But in any moment that you're struggling with dating, you can identify this. What's the story I'm telling myself? Could be all men are like this, or dating just doesn't work, whatever it is. Okay. Once you know that, you want to challenge it, poke doubt. Is that 100% fact? Well, you already know it's not, but is it 100% fact? What's the counter evidence? We want to poke little holes and see, is there any times this has not been true? Is it truly all or nothing? Where is it that is actually the opposite? Okay, poke the doubt, because we need that to create cognitive dissonance in your head. We need your brain to be feeling, hang on, what about this? Right? Which it won't be doing by default, because it's always clinging on to this idea that keeps it safe, certain, and predictable. The next step is to ask yourself, and this is where people don't do work, right? They always miss this. What's a better belief I could test instead? Right? You need something to go for instead of the usual thing, something that's going to replace it, and we're going to start proving that or finding evidence for it. And then the last step is very simple. You ask yourself, if I believe that right now, what would I do? What step could I take right now if I believed it? Right? 4 very simple checkpoints that you can always keep in your mind. It is super easy to remember. And obviously, the more you practice it, the easier it gets. So, 3 keys to success here. The first is we're poking doubt in the original belief, right? It's rarely binary. It's rarely 100% true. It's rarely all or nothing. We just want to poke any level of doubt and get a crack in there. The second thing is your replacement belief does not need to be perfect. I'm not saying lie to yourself. Okay. I'm not saying, hey, all men are perfect. I'm not saying you will find love, like, as a belief. What you can do is put these ing words like, I'm learning to do X, Y, Z. I'm learning to be better at dating. Or you could say, some men are great and I need to find them. I'm learning how to find them, right? The reason I'm saying that it doesn't need to be perfect is because for some of us, putting a direct counter belief in is too much. Your brain will just resist it. But if you add something with a level of possibility where it could be true by saying, I'm learning to, or some are, there's far less resistance to that. Another option is you could say, what if there are some good guys out there? What if the good ones aren't all taken? That's possibility based. It's not a complete 180 from where you are and unbelievable. Finally, action creates evidence. So you can go through all these steps, and like I said in module 1, you can't learn to swim without getting in the pool. The whole point of this reframing is to get you to take a new action, which then creates evidence of your new belief. And once you have evidence of a new belief, it's game over. Like, things change so fast. Now, I know this is not necessarily relevant to dating, but it's a good example of this. When I started coaching, I could not believe that people would pay 4 figures for coaching packages, right? So I just thought everyone was scam artists that was teaching coaches how to build businesses around this. And I actually had a friend who started her business, and she told me how much she was charging for 6 or 7 sessions. It was an outrageous amount of money, by the way, and overpriced. But she showed me proof of it, and that just blew my mind. It's like I was so certain of it. And then what I did was I challenged my story about, okay, I know that it's possible. A replacement belief was, I'm learning how to create enough value to be able to charge that. And then I thought, if I believe that it's possible to create a 4-figure coaching package, what would I do? But I'd start offering it, right? And what I found was I offered it, maybe 5 to 10 times, and someone took the offer up, and I was just forever. That just changed my mind completely, forever. And that was years ago, right? It's been hundreds of people since then. But before that, totally impossible. Did not believe it. Everyone's a scam artist. I was just wrong, right? But I had to set up this test. I had to poke some doubt. I had to create evidence. I did that all, and everything changed. More importantly for you, let's look at an example for dating, right? So all the good guys are taken. That could be the story. Well, is that 100% true? No. You probably have some single friends that you think are a decent guy. You probably know someone who's a decent guy. You've probably met them, and maybe it's just not worked out. Remember, we're not saying completely disprove it. Say, there's loads of good guys. I'm saying there are some good guys that disproves the fact that they're all good guys are taken, right? Even if it's 5% doubt, that's enough, right? That's what we're looking for to create that dissonance. What would you rather believe? Well, I think it's half glass and half full of half empty, right? For a glass, and we're choosing to look at half full. Some good men are out there. I'm going to meet one, or I'm learning to meet one. What would happen if you believe that? What would you do if you believe that? You'd probably continue dating. You wouldn't stop, come off the apps. You wouldn't just give up. You'd say, all right, they're out there, so I need to give every date a clean slate and be open to the idea that they could be there. Be open to maybe some people who aren't my type. Because if I believe they're there, if I know that some good people are out there, the last thing I want to do is stop looking. The last thing I want to do is taint them beforehand. The last thing I want to do is just be really close-minded and decide they're not like that. And what will happen when you do this, and I've seen this time and time again, is you might go through 5 to 10 dates, but you will find someone who is perhaps emotionally available in a way you haven't seen, or recently a client found someone who actually met her criteria and she went on 3 dates with, all after making that shift in her brain. Okay, it's up to you though to actually do this. And that's the thing, right? This takes practice, but the more you do it, it becomes automatic. And it is totally down to you to go through this. Master this skill, and you will rapidly see how many false assumptions that you make in your life and what's possible. It's again something that no one can do for you. If you're serious about changing your life, though, in terms of dating and changing the results that you get, learn to challenge your stories, as we have said in this, with those 4 steps. Identify what you're telling yourself, poke doubt in it, decide on what you'd rather believe. And if you did believe that right now, what's the step you would take? And when you do this and you get good at it, you constantly create evidence and show how fast things can change. Right, again, same with the last lecture, last lesson. A lot of people will have resistance to this. I'm totally fine with it. I promise you, if you actually put some effort into this, you will be very surprised at how fast things can change. Let me know what you think in the main chat, anything that came up for you. Otherwise, you can head to the next lesson, which is going to be about the game we're going to play this week, which ties this all together.